Now, when foreclosures strike a neighborhood, residents worry about the increased risk of street crime an empty house brings with it. But what they may not realize is the extent to which that house can attract white-collar criminals. To the casual observer who passes through a neighborhood and encounters a foreclosed home, it might strike them as just another empty building. But to a person who's criminally inclined, that house might represent an opportunity for ill-gotten gains. Zachary Lowe is Supervisory Special Agent with the St. Louis Division of the FBI.
A mortgage fraud conspiracy would basically target a property, and maybe it might be a vacant property that's been for sale for a long time, or might be in the city, and this property is really worth $100,000, and that's really the market value of that property. Well, then they'll get an appraiser that they know who will falsify records for them, and they'll have that appraiser appraise that property at $200,000, so that they've now doubled the actual value of that home as far as the bank sees. And that appraiser will do all kinds of things. May only take photographs of one part of the property, may even clean up the property, might even do modifications to the property just temporarily to make it look better in photographs that they attach to that appraisal report. Then that conspiracy will then get a straw buyer. This could be someone just off the street, this could be an acquaintance, and they'll have that person come in, and for a fee, that person will then sign the loan documents and become the person to buy that property. Now, this person may not have an income at all, but they'll create documents like W-2 forms to show that this person has an income that they really don't have, so that they can qualify for this loan on this property that we want to get a $200,000 property. Now, this person then gets an 80% loan, so they have $160,000 that they're going to get to buy this property. Now, that money, it's going to go to our conspiracy. They use $100,000 of that to actually buy the property. They walk away with $60,000. And now that $60,000 in false equity, they walk away from, the property goes into foreclosure, and then the bank along down the road will see this loss and will realize that this property really wasn't worth $200,000 to begin with.
Now, in addition to the bank being defrauded, this kind of crime hurts all the homeowners who live in the neighborhood. That's because when property assessment time rolls around, that overpriced vacant house that was used to scam the bank could end up raising the property assessments and ultimately the property taxes of all the houses around it. Speaking of housing inventory, we're just in the middle of this mortgage crisis, and it's estimated that this fall, September, October, there are going to be a lot of those adjustable rate mortgages that will kick up. And it just seems like you're going to get another huge flood of calls and possibly, more than likely, more foreclosed homes, a bigger inventory. Are you going to change your strategy for dealing with that? Or?
I mean, we certainly view it as an opportunity to be a buyer. At the end of the day, we don't have a tremendous amount of capital, and it's not like we're going to buy thousands of units in the marketplace, but certainly in a very strategic fashion in some of the neighborhoods that we've been working in, where we've been building homes and providing services for families. We don't want to see valuations lost. We don't want to see that social fabric that has been built up over time be taken away because of this foreclosure problem and the vacant home problem. So we're going to be putting together a strategy, working with a number of our partners to get the resources to buy as many of these foreclosed properties as possible, put them back in service so there's a new homeowner or a new renter in that unit, stabilize the block, stabilize the broader community, keep value strong, and allow this neighborhood to stay strong into the future.
It's got to be pretty frustrating, and when you see things happening, like with the mortgage fraud, it's silent. You don't see, it's not like you see somebody, breaking a window or busting a door down. All this stuff is taking place behind the scenes. Is there any way that, I don't know if law enforcement keeps in touch with agencies like yours, or to let you kind of know what's going on?
They do. We work right now with the city councilor and the sheriff's office and so forth on a variety of problems that have cropped up. For example, folks who have portrayed themselves as owning a property, rented the property to a family when in fact they don't own it. They just were able to get access because the bank that owned it wasn't keeping the place secure, and they've been scamming people into paying them rent for a property that they don't even own. That happens. We've had 2 cases like that just in the last week. It is a constant challenge. Chris mentioned, and we do the same thing in concert with support from Enterprise Community Partners and with HUD. We purchase foreclosed properties. One of the challenges for us is, while we're working on it, trying to keep the vandals away. I think there's been some great examples of what can happen when a house is vandalized. In Floridale Hills, The gas was turned on, and vandals got into an empty house, took out the pipes, and the house exploded. Yeah. Made 12 houses around it unoccupiable. This is very challenging for St. Louis County, for all the little municipalities in it, to try to deal with the vandalism, the lawn care, rats, and infestations. It is a truly difficult problem.
I mean, it's yet again another reason why the whole community should care about this and not feel like why I'm paying my mortgage, why should I help? Well, the reality is, what Karen just described, that's why we all should care about it, because if we don't, we're going to have more and more of those kind of situations, and we're going to pay for it in the long run.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Those are also the kinds of things that make community-based organizations important in the whole picture, because the people who live in neighborhoods and communities that are active in their community through these organizations, they keep very close tabs on this kind of thing. So in areas where they have that kind of organization, there are systems where there's intervention, where they do, like Karen said, they have a relationship with the city councilor's office or with other people, that people can keep their eye on these things, and they get tipped off to what's going on there.
And I was going to add, and in fact, Americans do care. There was a survey done by SaveAmericasNeighborhood.com, and they do have a website. I'd refer people to SaveAmericasNeighborhoods.com. And in fact, in the first week in June, they surveyed 1,000 Americans and found that over two-thirds, actually over three-fourths of them, do feel that when there's a vacant house or a foreclosed property near them, that crime does go up, that in fact the neighborhood does go down, and then in fact there's more crime. So Americans do care, and they are, and we just recently documented that.
Okay, there's an organization, Home Investors of America. I know you're familiar with them. They're like the commercial counterparts to what you do. They rehab and take foreclosed properties, mostly single-family homes. I was reading in the St. Louis Business Journal the other day about how they were ranking cities for affordability in terms, and they listed St. Louis ranked the 8th best market in the nation for real estate investing in the second quarter of this year. My question is this sort of an irony considering the problem we're in, or does it stand to reason that St. Louis would rank so high?
Well, I mean, from a property valuation standpoint, we've seen on the West Coast and on the East Coast in Florida great swings in appreciated value going way up ridiculously fast and then crashing on the backside of all this, and they're having lots of problems with valuation. Here in the Midwest, by and large, we've had pretty modest, pretty steady increases in valuation, so we haven't seen these wild swings. So if you're an investor, then one, there's lots of property regrettably coming in the marketplace. St. Louis certainly is a single-family community, so you can find a lot of affordable homes at decent prices that you can get in relatively inexpensively and then convert to something else as an investor. So yes, it is a good time to purchase, but we urge and hope folks are going to be an asset to that community and not just simply buy a home, slap some paint on it, and not care about the community, not care about who's going to live in that home. Because a vacant home is terrible, but if you don't take care of the property and have a bad tenant in there, that's not good for the neighborhood either.
Yeah, Stephen, I'm curious on your perspective from this, from a developer standpoint.
Well, the affordability is one thing that makes living in St. Louis attractive, and the market here is much more stable. So for development, it's both a positive and a negative from the standpoint of if it's affordable to purchase homes, to rehabilitate homes and get them back into the market and stabilize communities. That's a good thing. On the other hand, it can make it more challenging if values are too low, because it costs just as much to rehabilitate that property and get it back into the market, but if you can't get the return on it, then it's economically it doesn't make sense, and that's what happens in a lot of communities where if prices are too depressed. So there's sort of a warning on the other end of it, in that having things be too low can make it infeasible to do redevelopment. It's why in a lot of areas you won't see active private developers in those areas, and those are the kinds of areas we work in, where you're going into areas where there isn't a healthy market and you're trying to establish that market, and a not-for-profit will do that and hopefully sort of bring that back to a healthy level, and then private investors will follow.